Greetings to the Church Business Administration class here at Southeastern University. This is your instructor, Dr. Larry Asplund, coming to you at the end of week 5. I just wanted to catch you up and welcome you to week 6. I'm so much enjoying our time together and appreciate the great contributions that each one of you are making to this class. And so I wanted to, catch you up on where we are and where we're going in week 6. Kind of anticipate also the end of this class. I'm committed to you all finishing well, finishing strong, and succeeding academically when we come to the end of it all. So week 6 themes, first of all, we have a very important theme of a culture of stewardship in the local church, which is kind of the bigger picture, So we were looking at stewardship, church finances, etc. last week, the biblical basis for stewardship, but this really calls upon us to think through how you would actually embed that into the culture of the local church so that we're all thinking and moving and processing in the same direction. The second theme, of course, very practical to budgeting in the local church. And then there's also a great third theme, financial turnaround in the local church. So occasionally churches run into financial trouble for a variety of reasons. And so we're going to look at some real practical ideas for serving in that context. Week 6 reading, first of all, you want to review again the slides number 1 to 13 in Dr. Hemby's presentation, Resourcing the Kingdom. Next week we will have the opportunity to focus on the remaining slides. You maybe have already looked at them, listened to his lecture, but again, this week we're reviewing those early slides. And then you're going to be back into the great book by David Pollack, Business Management in Local Church. And you're going to look at 3 very practical chapters. Chapter 6 is the fundamentals of budgeting, which again is really helpful in terms of completing your week 7 assignment. Chapter 7 digs in a little more deeply on a chapter called Budgeting and Forecasting, beyond the basics, so it kind of moves us, beyond just the formation of a budget to thinking more strategically about it. And then chapter 11 has a great chapter called How to Turn Around a Financially Troubled Church. And so, even if you're in a church that's doing very well financially, I think that's the kind of information that might come handy in the coming years. So it could be down the road you'll really be thankful for being exposed to that kind of a theme. The week 6 discussion is just takes our discussion of stewardship to the next level. It deals with it more broadly. So we want to know not just what is stewardship, but why is it important? And specifically, how can leaders and administrators ingrain or embed the importance of stewardship in the culture of the local church? So how can we get everybody thinking? Some of you were in your great discussions dealing even with differences in interpretation of Scripture and doctrinal focus, etc. And all of that is very, very important. And so we want to move from our discussion of the biblical basis for stewardship to a practical discussion of how we can really get that happening with everybody, not just the leadership, but everybody who is a part of the church, get them thinking together as stewards. And I know that's going to be a great discussion this week. You remember that you are working on your week 7 assignment, and this is just a huge assignment for you. It's the one that's connected to our current discussion and the reading in the book by Bullock. So as you'll recall, you're building a budget for a church of 180 with annual giving totaling $200,000. And so you're going to have 2 parts to your assignment. The first is a 2-page description of that, hypothetical local church. It could be that you're in a church that matches up with those numbers, so it would be less hypothetical, including specific budgetary considerations. In other words, what are the needs that need to be addressed, in an annual budget? And so you can just be creative and think through what that might look like for your hypothetical congregation. And then the second part of your report is to create a specific ministry budget, including sources of revenue and projected expenses. So it's income and expenses, both sides of the budget. And so again, you're getting a lot of great material in your reading, etc., that's going to help you. And I'm sure you are already working on it. If not, you'll want to move forward with it in week 6, because it will be due at the end of week 7. And then, I would be remiss if I didn't say something now specifically about your week 8 assignment. So this is an interview. You're going to conduct an interview with someone currently serving in the capacity of a church administrator. And that could be senior leadership. It could be a pastor, youth pastor. It could be an executive pastor like larger churches have, etc. And then you want questions for the interview to be constructed from topics found in a text. So the content of your interview in the form of your questions should reflect the fact that you've been reading and listening and paying attention, etc. So you want to reflect your discussions and enough questions to be able to have a 1-hour interview. And then you are going to write up and summarize the interview into a paper, 6 to 8 pages, double-spaced, Times Roman 12-point font, just kind of the normal thing, for a college paper. And so your paper needs to include the following. It should include the date, time, and length of the interview. Be sure to look at the syllabus for the details. It should include the title of the person interviewed, the specific questions asked, and the substance of the answers. So you're not going to necessarily, record and report word for word the answers, but you are certainly going to summarize the substance. Now, I want to emphasize that in week 6, because this last assignment is actually worth 40% of the final grade. So it's worth the amount of your grade that's equal to all of the discussion boards combined. And so it's very important. I know you're going to want to be thinking about who you want to interview, maybe make some preliminary contact with that person, try to make arrangements, and then think through the questions you want to ask. I think it's okay in this kind of an assignment even to email your questions in advance to the person that you're going to interview, but your actual interview needs to be some form of face-to-face interactive interview, so that you have the opportunity to ask follow-up questions, etc., and really learn from this experience. So I encourage you to get going, get started on this, thinking about it right now, so it doesn't hit you, all at once. So I love this idea of establishing a culture of stewardship in the local church, to get everybody thinking together in the same way about what it means to be a steward, and what wise and fruitful stewardship looks like, and how does that pertain to our view of how we're participating in the local church. And of course, that includes the view of how we're providing resources, how we're giving. And so it's important to be able to kind of establish and develop that culture. So I'm looking forward to your discussion of this area and your reflection, in terms of what you might recommend for going forward, what, complications you might see arising, etc. So it's going to be a great week, another very helpful week. I just love the fact that this class is loading you up with good ideas and resources that will be a tremendous blessing to you and to your community in the future. So God bless you, everybody. Be sure to let me know if there's anything I can do for you, any way I can serve you this coming week. Please know once again that you will be in our prayers every day. Just have a wonderful week 6.